This video is brought to you by anti-gravity lithium-ion batteries used by Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha and Monster Energy Kawasaki and many more teams. And you can use the same battery as Eli Tomac, Jason Anderson, and others. Anti-gravity batteries offer more power and capacity than the competitors because they give you a larger lithium battery pack. But additionally, they offer features like the world's first batteries with built-in jump starting that will never leave you stranded. So check them out at antigravitybatteries.com.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading this little video right here. Thanks for joining me. This is RacerXOnline.com. I am Chris Kiefer, and this is the 2023.5 FC450 Rockstar Edition. Husqvarna, of course. So, beautiful looking bike, white, black. I love the black frame. We're going to break this thing down right here in the high des of Hesperia, California, because California is flooded a little bit. You East Coasters are probably laughing at us right now because we say storm watch in California, and it means about 0.25 inches of rain, but we've actually had some weather. So we thought we'd do something different, go to a little different track here and break down this new machine from Husqvarna. And we're gonna talk to you guys and essentially tell you if this bike is better than the standard edition. And we'll go back and forth between the orange bike and this bike to see the differences, to tell you which one maybe you guys should buy out there. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up here. This is Colton Udall. You guys might know him from a 6-time Baja champion, and the guy can ride moto. So he's one of those new age hybrid riders that hauls ass on a moto track and can send it out in the des, and he's been doing it for many years. So he's actually a high des native, so we have this bond together. So I brought him in here, and he lives across the wash from me, and he has this cool little track that we got to ride and test this bike here today. So the 2023.5 FC450 Rockstar Edition. Now, Colton, been riding Hondas for many years. Do you even give a crap about looks of a motorcycle, or you just care about performance?
When it comes down to it, I only like performance. But I do like this bike. I mean, you can see I'm kind of wearing a black and white kind of gear, yeah. You know, like the Deus stuff. So I like the black and white look. I think the wheels all black, spoke nipples, spokes, hub. It's actually pretty cool. So the Rockstar Edition looks good for me. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, for me, actually, it's a great point. I didn't even bring that up. So with the Rockstar Edition, you're getting an FMF slip-on muffler. You got a gut seat. Obviously, you got some Excel rims, as well as a black spoke and black nipple, which is really cool. And also, you have revised fork and shock settings from the standard edition. The Rockstar Edition does not have the 10 millimeter lower setting like the standard FC450 does. So if you guys are wondering about that, this is the same height as the KTM Factory Edition as well, so it isn't a 10 millimeter lower feel. All right, so Colton has been on Hondas for God knows how long, and he hasn't got to ridden a lot of different bikes, so I thought it would be cool to bring him in and to ride this new generation steel frame. So before I get to him, really quick, I'm gonna answer your guys' question because I already know what you're gonna email me. What's the difference between the Rockstar and the Factory Edition right now if you rode them back to back? So for me, and Colton rode both as well today, I still feel like there's more low end response and front end coming out of a corner. I just got more bottom end on the Rockstar Edition versus the Factory Edition. The Factory Edition is a smoother feel. This has more bottom end and just has more excitement. I do feel like there's more comfort within this chassis. Yes, it is the same, but for whatever reason, maybe it's the subframe, I just feel like there's more compliancy within this package versus the orange package. So I also prefer a Pro Taper bar that has less vibration. So for me, I prefer the looks of the orange bike, but there's a lot of key things in here that I like as far as engine response and less vibration. So I just wanted you guys to note that out there. All right, what do you think about the engine on this thing? You can compare it to some of your bikes that you rode here in the past, but just riding it on your track, how's the engine package for you?
I'm a little opposite from you. You know, this was like a handful for me off the bottom, and I like a little bit more gradual because I guess I'm constantly struggling to hold on. So the KTM was more comfortable off the bottom. I did like mid-range to the top. Like I made a little jump, or kind of a big jump, and this thing pulled all the way off the top of it, and it made me confident. And this was actually the first time I've ever done that jump on this bike, so it felt pretty good as far as the power characteristic, other than down low.
It's too herky-jerky for you?
I had to be very patient,
yeah.
And I couldn't just, like, you know, just give it all the gas,
right,
because I would have been looping out.
So Colt was actually on the standard map today, so if we went to the snappier map, that just makes that worse. So with the white and green map, the differences are basically what you're seeing is RPM response and touch down low. So if you switch the map to the green map, you might get a little bit more front side and then more low end feel, and then the white map's more the longer linear map, but still has good performance. I would recommend putting the insert inside of your FMF. It should come that way when you buy a Rockstar Edition. This one, we have it out, and if we stuck it back in, which I did at the beginning of this test, just not today, it would take some of that hit away,
yeah,
and it wouldn't be so jerky.
A little back pressure.
So if you're looking for more front end, bottom end, you know, coming out of front side, bottom end coming out of a corner, take this insert out. If you want to smooth it out, put it back in. That's what I like. I like that insert in. It obviously sounds better as well. All right, the chassis. When's the last time you rode a steel frame?
I really have never really ridden steel frames, but
all right.
I actually have been riding I rode the off-road version, which is lower, and you brought that up earlier. I like this bike a heck of a lot better, both the off-road version and the regular model non-factory edition, Rockstar edition.
Yep.
But I do like kind of the similar holdups, probably similar linkage as the KTM.
Yep.
But yeah, it made me feel a lot more comfortable chassis-wise, and the bump impact and the rear end holdup of this motorcycle is actually really good. It was talking to me quite well. As far as the fork goes, I struggled with like initiation into corners, sometimes diving, which is what the air fork does, but it does create a little bit of like a plush feel.
Yep.
And that is what the air fork does, is it creates that plush feel. But if you're a taller rider and you get your weight over the front a little bit too much, sometimes it'll be like and then
let
you're
go.
kind of like, yeah, you find yourself kind of, is this tire the right option for me? But yeah, it's quite a motorcycle.
So for me, can I kind of explain it for you guys out there? The air fork has a vague feel. You might have a good initiation into a corner, but then you might have area 2 of the corner might be a little bit vague and get a push. So for me, that's where the spring fork is a little bit better, and I like that feel. I'm just old school. I'm actually old, so I mean, I like a spring fork. I grew up with that, so that feel is normal to me. But like I said, you need to break in this bike, period. It needs to be 8 hours. We only have about 3 hours on this bike right now. The air fork needs about 8 hours to break in, as well as this chassis. The more you ride this chassis, the more compliant it will be. It does feel light. I like the lightweight feel of this motorcycle. For me, I just want a little bit more plushness up front, like Colt was saying. Straight line stability, obviously you're used to hauling ass through the desert. I mean, we have some fast sections here on the track today, so how was stability for you?
I thought it was pretty good. Straight line stability, I didn't do anything sketchy, which tells me that I was happy with it. Like I said, the rear end had good hold up, and over, say, the different shorter linkage for shorter guys, or the trail kind of model, I should say. But yeah, the moto linkage and kind of the similarities between the orange bike were good. I think it, and I'm a little heavier. Well,
I'm 170.
Yeah, I'm 195. So this bike had good hold up for me. I'm sure I was at the farther end of the sag setting, but yeah, actually the best thing I did like about this bike was the rear end bump absorption and
So out of a
standing,
corner,
sta-
like so you're
standing.
coming out of a corner with some square edge, you like that feel?
Well, I'm kind of a critic on all new motorcycles. Sitting is not really that enjoyable for me. But as far as like landing off jumps and kind of hitting standing from the pegs, it felt quite nice.
So a lot of plushness in that area.
Yeah.
Do you like this kind of seat? Do you notice it?
Yeah, when you can't hold on because the thing's ripping you off the bike, the gripper seat works quite well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. I always order my seats with only like 3 ribs. I don't go quite in here because it creates that monkey butt type deal. So
Yep.
I like to only have just like, it almost acts as like a seat bump.
Yep.
Whereas here, you're kind of, if you get here, you get a little stuck. So I just like the last 3.
And we did try this bike specifically with the closed cover, side cover. There is an option, obviously you can go to a vented cover if you want a little bit more. Colt obviously doesn't want that. He wants to close that off. So if you're looking to deaden a little bit of that bottom end feel, run the closed off side cover. If you want a little bit more, you can run that vented cover.
Guess sand tracks, I mean, you would want all that horsepower, but
Yeah.
when you got grip, this thing's plenty for you.
Yeah. All right, for you bigger guys, I brought in here 230 pounds of man meat, riding fury, Eddie Larrett. So you're a steel frame guy, you have been for a little bit. There's not that much difference from what you were riding. I mean, the frame is, I guess, right? But we've done these videos with the new generation frame. So tell me about what you like. Give me 3 things you like about this bike and maybe a couple things that you would want to improve.
Yeah, so obviously everyone knows, you know, this bike's getting hammered right now for its rigidity. It's super rigid. But I mean, it's something that I think gets better with age, you know, as we continue to break it in, it gets more comfortable. But for me being a bigger guy, and we had some corners that were kind of deep and up hills, I actually liked the power of this bike. It had a very aggressive but not overpowering bottom end compared to the KTM, and I think that has a lot to do with the FMF muffler. It doesn't seem to be as restricted, I guess you could say, as the Krapovic. So I enjoyed that. I actually liked that. We get back up in some of these canyons where we rode, which you guys will see in the video, it gets excessively loud, which I've never been an issue with a loud guy. Like I like my motorcycle loud, but I noticed it off of the Krapovic. I rode 2 bikes today with a Krapovic on it, and it was like, whoa, this thing's loud. But I think you need that to increase that front side power that you've been talking about. So I enjoyed that. Obviously the Pro Taper bars, you know, we're big Pro Taper guys over here, so the Pro Taper bar is very comfortable. The seamless, which not very many people talk about, but the seamless plastic flow on this bike, this covers off because we were making sag adjustments and shock adjustments, but there's a cover that goes here. It's very seamless, so when you slide across the bike, you don't feel any change, anything grabbing. Yeah, nothing grabbing. So that's those are my 3 that I like. You know, I mean, it's.
I want to add to you, like for me, he brought up a good point. So it does have good throttle response, but it's still linear. So you still have a lot of rear wheel traction on this bike. Like you have that excitement to get you out, but then it's really linear and long. So it's not just going to rip your arms out like a Yamaha YZ450 in that mid-range. It doesn't climb up really quick. So I do like that. I still think it's not a 3rd gear lugging machine. You do have to downshift to 2nd gear. For whatever reason, I probably would change the gearing a little bit just so I can run 3rd gear more. But are you downshifting to 2nd?
Yeah, some of these tighter, because there's some pretty, you'll see in the videos, there's some pretty tight hairpin stuff. So I mean, yeah, you're getting down into 2nd and having to let the bike work.
And that goes for the KTM as well. Like you have to downshift to 2nd. Once you get past like, hey, I can't really lug it in 3rd gear, I do got to downshift to 2nd. It is usable. It is a longer type of gear, 2nd gear, versus a Honda or a Yamaha is actually quite long, but 2nd gear on a Kawasaki is pretty short. So for me, 2nd gear is usable, and then you can shift to 3rd once you're out of the corner, and then that 3rd gear is really long. So I really didn't have to get into 4th, jumping this big jump that Colton has here in the back, and I'm in 3rd gear all the way up that, and that seems to not be a problem. But bigger guy being 230 suspension, okay?
Well, like we said in the past, you know, it always starts out decent.
Yeah.
let's keep it decent. I would say it's okay. Wasn't too crazy rough here today, but you know, I'm on a steel frame bike right now. They're 23 gas older version with the KYB conversion kit, and I mean, I just want to like fall in love with the air fork, but you just lose it at that initial. I think once you get past that initial 3-4 inches and you kind of break through, then it's okay. It's not terrible, but it's just you.
And look, we're nitpicking things here, guys. You know, we want to tell you every little nook and cranny. A lot of you guys don't even check sag on your motorcycles. So for me, you need to check sag on your motorcycle, and then you're going to have to check your fork pressure, right? So there's two things, just more things for you to do. And also, if you want to make sure your bike is running at the optimal level, you're going to have to check it during the day if you're riding all day. So it's not that the air fork has a horrible feel, because I've had spring forks that I have ridden that are worse than this air fork right here. So it is a good fork, it's just not great. I think you can make it great with a spring fork, but I will say this, again, you will have to break it in. We talk about rigidity and harshness. It does get better after 8 hours. So give it 8 to 10 hours, you will have a more compliant motorcycle, and it does get better. But for me, very fun bike to ride, easy to corner. You don't corner the greatest, so this bike will help you do that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the things that I noticed the most is I felt more, you know, as a bigger guy, you've heard in some of these other videos, maybe with Kenny on the KTM, you don't have that much like front wheel compliancy. It's kind of nervous. And I think that's, you know, I'm a little heavier, so I have a little more weight on the front end, because I don't notice that. Some of these, you know, high-speed corners, I felt like, compared to some of the other bikes I rode today, I felt like I could charge into the corners a little bit harder on this. It felt a little more predictable for me, which would be odd to hear me say, but it's not ragging on the air fork. It's just, you know, I mean, like Chris said, we want to give you all the meats and potatoes, and depending on what kind of rider you are and weight and ability, the air fork sometimes could be good for you, and you don't need to convert it, and just have your local guy tune it up for you, and you're good.
And there are companies out there that can fix an air fork and make it a little bit more plusher and get you more front end traction. So it is an option. All right, so standard edition, 10 millimeter lower, or this edition? What are you going with?
Rockstar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of what reason?
Just because I'm
You're
higher.
a big looks guy.
Well, it's not, I mean, this bike's beautiful, you know, I mean, they've done a great job with the look of this bike, but it's, I like the higher chassis. I like the FMF pipe, gives it a little more power.
So you think the dollars are worth it to get this?
Yeah, I mean, it's, for sure.
For me, we mentioned this in the KTM video as well. It's like the clamps and the muffler is a pretty big deal. These clamps that are split, they do give you more front end traction versus the stock clamp that comes on the standard edition.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm a big fan of these clamps. I'm a big fan of the FMF slip-on. And for me, I think those two things right there are a huge advantage. And those black spokes and nipples are nice.
Yeah, the Power Parts wheels that they put on this thing is, it definitely just completes its look. I mean, they've done Austria always does a beautiful job with their factory editions and their Rockstars editions. I think they're some of the best looking motorcycles on the market today. So
and you got really cool looking front disc guard cover. You got a skid plate, so there are some things that you don't normally get, and it actually does add some function to the bike. It's not just for looks. So
for sure.
If you have any questions about this bike, Chris at KieferInkTesting.com. I'm happy to help you, and we'll be back more. We're gonna have a gas edition. I don't know what they're calling it. Barsha edition,
maybe
or
still the Troy Lee
designs or whatever. We're gonna ride that thing too, and we're gonna do a little factory edition shootout, and hopefully give you guys some more information about all these bikes here soon. So stay with us. Don't forget to go to racerxonline.com for more videos. It's very cold out here. That's probably why my voice is really blah blah blah. But we have we have magazine, 12 issues, $30. People still do read magazines. It's available. And there are a lot of features in there that you can't read here online. So check that out as well. We'll see you on the next test.